All right, we're back again for a Wet Ink Wednesday with another person who we've roped into the Wet Ink Games orbit. We got Kevin Doc Wilson from the Great Frozen North, hockey dad, humorist, writer, and game designer. Kevin, say hi.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Awesome.
It's good to be here,
Uh,
Matt.
yeah, it's nice to talk to you. I was going through my list of everybody that we've is part of the Never Going Home project that we're promoting with this series of interviews. And I was like, but Kevin's been on since the beginning. So like I haven't talked to him yet. So like glad to get you on finally to talk about yourself as a game designer and how we managed to convince you to work on our funny little game. So in the spirit of that, like what is your nerdy origin? Like I can imagine ways in which you came into tabletop, but tell me what the reality is, or your best version of it, whatever. Like,
Uh, it's a long story. Starting when I was about 4 years old, my parents took me to see Star Wars at the drive-in theater uh, in 1979, and just that whole adventure and magic and swinging swords and stuff like that, and blasters and lights and sounds. The whole thing just locked into my brain and wouldn't let go. And then I went out to Peterborough, Ontario to visit an aunt and uncle and my cousins. And I had my fifth birthday out there, got my Star Wars figures, and I got a box of books from my aunt, uh, from an author named Lloyd Alexander. It was the uh, Chronicles of Prydain series. Many of you would know about the Black Cauldron and the High King and stuff. And that's kind of what got me into the whole fantasy genre thing. Shortly after that, I was an advanced reader when I by that point. So it was 5 or 6. I was reading Lloyd Alexander. By the time I was about 7 or 8, I was reading The Hobbit, and I just loved the genre. I loved the fantasy genre, and there was a lot of other stuff too, like Billy and the
well,
Bubble Ship, and other stuff like that. That was more age appropriate, obviously, but almost everything I was reading was fantasy or Star Wars related. And I was also an avid watcher of Star Trek, so I'm not one of those bifurcated Star Trek Star Wars fans. I just love sci-fi and fantasy all wrapped into one. And I met some people who were uh, into Dungeons and Dragons. My buddy Jason Webb uh, and Ryan Webb, I met through my little brother who was in school with Ryan, and my brother introduced me to those two, and they said, "Hey, have you played Dungeons and Dragons before?" And I said, "I don't even know what that is, but it sounds pretty cool."
it's got Dungeons and
And
Dragons.
so we exactly you can't do any better than that. And so I would they just had to mention dragons and stuff, and I was down. So uh, I was introduced to uh, Frank Menser's BECMI Dungeons and Dragons at that point. And I just fell in love with role playing games right off the hop. And yeah, it was right at that point when I was 9 years old. I started, and then my other friends were not into role playing games at the time, and so I introduced them to Dungeons and Dragons, and I started game mastering when I was 10 years old.
Oh goodness,
So
yeah.
I played for a year, and then I was dungeon mastering by the time I was 10,
I mean,
and then
that's yeah. But
I lost it. Like, and then there was Star Frontiers that came out. That was so campy and fun. It was amazing. And there was Twilight 2000 and Toon, and I used to go to this one gaming store in Winnipeg. It was run by this really grumpy guy, and I used to have a pocket full of money. He didn't like kids too much, and so I walked it. I walked in. I had a pocket full of money. He used to watch me like a hawk, thinking I was like thieving little kid, right? And I just walked in, and there was role playing games like wall to wall, and I'm going, just amazing, right? And I think by this point I was, to me, by Jason and Ryan and another guy, Trevor Wilcox, and then Jeff Takagi and Kevin Takagi, and basically our group kind of grew, and they introduced me to games as we went on, like Car Wars and stuff like that. But Dungeons and Dragons was my staple, and I went to get Dungeons and Dragons stuff at um, uh, this game shop, and he was watching me like a hawk, and he gave me a time limit to buy stuff. So I ended up having to go, okay, this has got a cool cover on it. So I grabbed this, right? And that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
All
And
right, all right.
that was the first game I'd bought on my own, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with my paper route money. And so I was introduced to Palladium role playing games at that point. And uh, then there was, oh wait, there was another game I was introduced to before I bought that, and that was Paranoia. That was another one of my
Okay.
favorites. Is Paranoia First Edition. And I bought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I was booted out. But I just went kind of walking around for a little bit downtown, and then I went back to the store, and I figured if he goes on lunch, and so I went back, and sure enough, his wife was there, and she's a lovely, lovely person. And she let me stay and look at things and leaf through the books and stuff. And I bought an expansion. I bought Paranoia Second Edition. I bought a splat book for Paranoia called oh, I can't remember what that one was called, but it had some new secret societies and stuff in it and whatnot. I figured those are so cool. And I also bought yeah, Paranoia and the Splat book. So I got that, and on top of the TMNT that I had before, and then I left happy. And so I used to go from that moment on, hopefully at around lunchtime when his wife would be working the counter, not him. So
I mean,
it worked sometimes, it didn't work others, and I got booted out a lot, and it was kind of strange because like, I'd have a pocket full of money and I want to dump it in his store. He's going, get out, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. This is a non-example. This is an unexample of what you should do to cultivate the next generation of gamers. Uh,
exactly.
but I'm glad that none. I'm glad that you figured out a way to get your games, because that's so. I mean, so many people, like, obviously Dungeons and Dragons is such a touch point for so many, but like that you from almost the same age were into all of the other sort of lesser known games. Um, I want to ask you, because you mentioned Palladium, like I don't actually know how, because like by the time I met you in 2019, you had already written an adventure for Never Going Home. So how did you get into, how did Brandon find you? Because I guess, was it through Palladium connections, or was it friends of friends? Like how did you find out about the project? How did you get into working on the first round of Never Going Home stuff?
Believe it or not, that's also a story. Um, I okay. When I was about 12 or 13, I started developing this game over here over the boards, which is a blood sport hockey board game, and I I stopped developing it when I got into hockey and football and stuff like that. I was a big sports guy, and then I was a professional metal musician, and then I was a soldier. And I didn't do anything really gaming related until I was in the army, and I started gaming with some of the guys in the army. But I didn't really write stuff at that point. I was just a player at that point, and I was running Mage the Ascension when I was a musician though, so I was still playing and stuff, but I wasn't really designing as a job. I just did it for the love of it, right? It was my hobby, and I loved telling stories around a table and just escaping for a while. But I had a really nasty disease called sarcoidosis from 2008 through 2010. Almost killed me a whole bunch of times. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I haven't really done anything I've wanted to do in terms of, you know, there's a lot of things I've missed out on because I've just been this workaholic guy, right? And it gave me a little bit of a wake up call. And I thought, one thing I've always wanted to do was finish creating this game, this Bloodsport hockey game. I didn't have a name for it at the time. I just called it Combat Hockey, and I just figured that not a great name. That's a name that like 12-year-old comes up with, right?
Sure.
And so,
Working
uh,
title.
so exactly. So I said, you know what, I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to get myself, I'm going to register a business name, I'm going to register with the government as a corporation, and I'm going to get myself a website, and I'm going to finish this game in about 8 months, right? Now, what I didn't know at the time, being having zero experience designing games professionally, is that you're not going to finish anything, especially minis related, in 8 months.
Yeah,
It's just not going, is bouncing around the ice, and you have to do it realistically and yet not bog the entire game down, right? So the 8 month mark passed, and Ben Hofer came on board to do the artwork for it. He's done a fantastic job, not only just for the artwork, but he's done all the layout, and he designed the board to my specifications, and he's done fantastic work. And so I'm basically giving him half of everything I make on this. Once we actually get it out, but so I ran out of time basically, and I'm going, okay, this thing ain't done, and I'm paying for my business stuff, and I'm paying for the website. So what the heck am I going to do with this thing? So I started writing gaming related humor blogs, and I came up with a gaming comic called shoot, what was that? Uh, RPG Nights. RPG Nights, because it was a superhero. It was basically C-list superheroes who play role-playing games in their spare time. And so I created that comic. Now,
good concept.
I didn't know, but there was a lot of people who were into the stuff I was writing and the stuff I was posting on social media and my comic and stuff. And I had no clue. I had no clue that I had an audience. I was just doing it because, I'm just doing something with this, right? And maybe a couple people read it until I release my game, right? But I went to Gen Con for the first time in 2015. And I had this little notebook, and I was going to get everybody's autographs and stuff like that. I was going to put it all in my notebook, and this is going to, like, Gen Con was my Graceland. I've been waiting to go to Gen Con since I was like an adolescent. And
Sure.
here I am, and it's 2015, and I'm finally there, right? And Ben, he's been there before. He's an old hack at this. So he said, he just wanted to walk around and see my expression and just watch me experience this convention. And so we were there for the big crush at the beginning. That was amazing. And the lineup was huge. But here's the thing. I had started talking to people online. I didn't know who the hell they were because I had wasn't in the industry, right? And right. I just knew these people were cool, and I was talking to them, right? And so I'm waiting in line, and I've got this googly-eyed T-shirt on, and it was the first industry professional I'd ever met, and I didn't even know he was a big industry professional. Was Robert J. Schwalb. He and I had been talking online for like years, and I had no idea what the heck was going on with him, right? I just thought he was a cool dude. And he comes up, he's, Doc, and he just runs up, he gives me a hug, and we talk and stuff like that. And then he says, we're going to go for dinner and stuff like that. We're going to go for drinks and stuff. I said, okay, cool. And so he takes off. At this point, I have no idea. He's one of the most prolific game designers in the industry. So I just think he's a cool guy. Going to dinner. So the line goes. We finally get our badges. And I go, okay, so I want to go meet some people, and they're off in the dealer's hall, right? So I go up the dealer's hall. I was a very dark gothic type guy, and Eddie Webb was one of my favorites, and I kind of waved and said, hey, Eddie, how's it going? He sees my shirt. oh my God, it's you. And I went, stuff. I'm going, okay, that's weird. And so he signed my book, and then I went on my way. And I'm going, why am I signing stuff for him? Like, okay. And then that scene repeated itself all over the convention. Jolly Blackburn, all these guys, all these people that I've always wanted to meet. Shanna Germain, or Shauna Germain, and it just repeated itself over and over and over and over again. And okay, wait a second. I gotta check my website stats because I don't know why the hell this is happening. All these people know me. And so I go to my website stats, and apparently I've got like 4,000 viewers of my website, like monthly. I'm going, holy crap. Like a lot of people are reading my stuff. And I found out that most of my readership was industry professionals. And one of those industry professionals was Ed Greenwood, the creator of the Forgotten Realms, which is the base world for Dungeons and Dragons and the movie even. And he's reading my stuff. He's a fellow Canadian out in Toronto there, but like I had no idea that he would even talk to me because he's like famous,
well, yeah,
right?
right. He's
And
gaming,
and apparently he's reading.
Echelons, upper echelons of the
He's
gaming.
royalty, right?
I didn't want to say that because like down with kings or whatever, but like
Yeah, and
yeah, he's famous.
yeah, he's like a demagogue. So I didn't think he would talk to me ever, but he contacts me. It was shortly after the convention, and he says, "Hey, I wanted to know if you wanted to do some stuff for my project." And he had a project that was going to be going, where he was designing a world, and he was designing this multimedia thing around this world. And I said, "Yeah, sure." My background's in journalism, so tell you what, I will write an article for your website like once a week or something like that, based on uh, the point of view of a bard character who's wandering through your world as he discovers stuff and he writes about stuff, kind of like a new Volo, right? And he goes,
Sure.
"Yeah, that's perfect. It's perfect. It's awesome, right?" And a couple weeks later, he goes, you can't write for me unless you have spot in my world. So you got to claim a spot in my world." I said, "Well, I'm not really designing anything for it. So what does nobody want? What's the crappiest part of your world that nobody wants?" He goes, "I've got a swamp over here." I went, "I'll take it." So
Right.
I said, "So fine, I got my swamp." And then a couple weeks later, he goes, "I really want you to design something. So tell me about your swamp." I'm like, okay, I picked a crappy place. So I ended up designing this culture and this society around this swamp. And basically, they're leech ranchers, and
All right.
and this area was magical, and their reagents are better than everywhere else, and their entire economy is based around leeches and uh, other reagents and stuff. And then he goes, "Wow, this is really cool. Can you pitch me a book?" And I went, "What? I'm pitching a novel now?" So I pitched him a novel, and he loved it. And then he got me to pitch him a trilogy. And I said, "Okay." So I pitched the trilogy, and he goes, "This is absolutely perfect. I'm going to make this a like part of my main storyline for my world, and it's going to be a main trilogy that kind of is a linchpin of this thing, right?" And he timed out where my books were going to be released, and unfortunately, he had a project manager that was not really. I don't know if he really knew what he was doing, and it kind of went downhill from there. And Ed said, "Okay, fine, we got to fold this." So he folded it up, but he let me keep that stuff, uh, like the stuff I'd created, as long as I stripped out his intellectual property from it. And
Right.
he's an
Right.
amazing gentleman that way. And so I'm in the middle of working on those novels right now. But the thing is uh, Ed Greenwood got me into the whole freelance design thing because he told people about me. And then
Sure.
I started freelancing for some smaller place for some smaller companies. But the first one was in Canada. He got me in touch with a guy named Andrew J. Lucas, who got me designing for Rebel Minis. I designed some comedic Goblin and Kobold adventures, and Goblin, Kobold, and I think Duck People. I don't know. It was really weird. It was really fun, and so I designed that stuff. And then Andrew got in contact. Andrew and I did a lot of freelance work, kind of as partners, doing stuff. And then Andrew got me in touch with who did he get me in touch with? I think it was Sen. And then Sen got me in touch with you guys.
All right.
And then I started designing for you guys. And it what really triggered Andrew wanting to get me involved with your project was that it was a World War One thing, and he knew I was a former soldier and I was a World War One buff, and I did a lot of my history stuff in university on World War One, and so that's kind of what got me into that, and I've always been a fan of Eldritch horror as well, and so tying World War One in with Eldritch horror really grabbed me by the cockles and pulled me in, and I just loved designing for Never Going Home. It was fantastic. I love running it too.
Great. You're a storyteller and something of a force of nature. So thank you for the very long, detailed memory of like every step of getting into the industry. I think I'll try to summarize it for the viewers with like, I mean, you got to meet people
Yeah,
and
it's
people introduce you to other
probably a good
people,
idea.
and it's and you can meet people on the internet, like you said. I mean, it isn't just about having that financial ability to go to the biggest convention in North America. You can get that reputation started because you're doing something you like, and I think that's an encouragement for the people who are trying to
Exactly.
get into the industry. I do want to cover
I
some
fell
other
ass backwards into it.
yeah. I think it happens. It happens. It kind of happened that way for me. I do want to
Yep.
hit on a few other things what in the time that we have
Okay.
remaining.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to make you give shorter answers, so be as
Okay. Gotcha.
as
Gotcha.
as succinct as you can. What is the adventure
Got
that
it.
you put into the Bile in the Streets, the 1914 dossier that we're working on now? What is your adventure? What themes things did you hit on in that one? And I got a follow-up
In my
question already,
adventure,
but like tell us a little bit. What's the high level pitch for your adventure?
high level pitch for my adventure was that it is a clandestine escort mission trying to get this Serbian activist off to get some munitions and supplies for the rebellion against the Austro-Hungarians, and then get him safely back. And things go really squiffy because there's this. It's almost like I don't want to give too much away.
Oh no,
It's a
don't give too much away.
no.
Just tease. Just tease.
Yeah, yeah. It, there is a lot of supernatural interference in this that is there are a lot more plots going on underneath than are readily apparent in the first while. That's all I'm going to say is there's a lot more going on than you think, and as the book goes on, as you run these adventures, there's going to be light bulbs going off left, right, and center as all of this stuff is kind of coming into confluence. It's beautiful. My
Yeah,
part's the escort mission.
yeah, I agree. I agree that I think you've summarized it well, and I think I mean I thought we would talk more about it, but I think I want to ask you something else instead, and kind of showcasing your
Sure.
interests and stuff. You've tried to sneak Dracula into this game twice now. So I I want
I've been a
to
fan of Dracula
know.
since I was like 7 years old.
Right. So tell me about Dracula. And so like if you, because you keep trying to sneak it doesn't, for me it doesn't quite fit in Never Going Home. So I keep saying like, I don't know. But for me it doesn't fit. But like I support Dracula as a
It's like Thurston Hillman's Rust Monster.
uh it's a, I mean I love the concept of Dracula. It's become a cultural like uh I don't know, force or whatever. Like it's a, people know who Dracula is. Dracula has escaped the original Bram
Yep.
Stoker novel, which is of, whatever, it's dated and it's of only certain quality, but like Dracula has become so much more than that novel. And then the connections to the historical inspiration is there, so you can bring in like the real history a lot. So it's a cool thing to play with. So pitch me on the Dracula game, because you keep trying to sneak it into the World War I game. So like take the World War I stuff aside. What's your Dracula pitch? What game do you want to do for Dracula? Because clearly you've got one. You want to do something. What's your Dracula game that you,
Oh yeah. Okay.
again, high level. You don't have to
Okay.
tell us everything, but like what's the ideal Dracula game?
The ideal Dracula game is Dracula is the first vampire, right? Now, is the whole Dracula thing has been kind of kind of really incredibly well done by White Wolf. So I wouldn't take that tack so much as it would be a spy versus spy thing where
Okay.
Dracula's waking up and he's the first vampire and he's had servants for hundreds of years. Uh, and he actually tried to come out again in the 1800s and it didn't quite work out for him. But now he's trying to get out again. And there is secret societies all over the place who serve him and secret societies who come at him. And these two secret societies need to stay secret or everything goes bad. Either it can go tip one way, balancing on a knife's edge, and in horror where like an entire town is threatened to be taken over and you have to clean it out type thing. And it's not just vampires. He's got control of all manner of supernatural things. And he came about because of something, some kind of wellspring of supernatural stuff. I haven't really planned it out a lot, but that's where I would want to go with that, where he did something supernatural. He became something incredibly evil and incredibly powerful, something the world had never seen, maybe since the days of Gilgamesh or something. And now he's a huge threat just to humanity at large.
I like all those ideas. Those are good ideas. You could, in all that voluminous free time you have, you could work. You should work on that game. That'd be a great game. Uh,
Oh
so
yeah.
we don't have too much more time on this video, so I do want to let you.
Okay.
I would thank you for your time, and I want to let you tell people where, if they want to know more. You already talked about Over the Boards, so if people want to follow the progress on Over the Boards, you haven't said your company name. I know it, but I'll let you say it. Where can people find you and your work out there in the ether that is the internet?
My company is Googly Beard Games. I do my freelancing under another corporation called Mythweaver Consulting and Publications Incorporated. Uh, Over the Boards is a blood sport hockey game where you win by scoring 3 goals or killing 4 players. Uh, I am on TikTok as Googly Doc. I am on Facebook as Kevin Doc Wilson. And those two social media platforms are where I basically spend all of my time, nowhere else really. So if you want to hear any news, you follow me on Facebook, follow me on TikTok, and I'm even starting to run some role playing games for as live videos for my audience on TikTok shortly. So
All right, that sounds fun. Uh, breaking up the sessions, or are they just very short campaigns? Like, how does that work?
Uh, it's going to be probably one shots where I'm introducing new role playing games to people. I'm going to be yeah, it's going to be one shots. It's a lot easier to do that way because I'm writing enough as it is. One shots are a lot easier.
Sure, sure. All right.
So
Well, yeah. Go ahead. Finish up whatever you're saying.
yeah, yeah, no. So I don't want to spend a lot of time writing long, huge, intricate plot lines. I just want to run one shots that are fun and full of action and run for about 2 hours with participation from the audience.
All right. Well, if you want to get in
Oh,
on
I'm
that,
playing all the characters. So, yep.
okay. So that I'm an old grumpy old enough of a grumpy old man that I've never been on TikTok, but that sounds fun. Okay. Uh so links will be in the video description if you want to check with any of that. Thank you again, Doc, for talking to us, and thank you for watching this Wet Ink Wednesday. See you all on the next one. Say goodbye.
Thanks very much, Matt. Have a good one.